6:45. This is Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Dhanushka Madhavala and read by Lavani Vijayatunga. First, we take a look at the headlines. Biggest duty concessions for Sri Lankan workers abroad. NBRO issues alert for landslides in 3 districts. Government's commitment to uplift the low-income population emphasized. The President reveals plans to establish a history institute. The National Dengue Eradication Unit says that 15 persons have died due to dengue so far this year. In news overseas, former Sudanese Prime Minister Hamdok says Sudan crisis risks becoming a nightmare for the world. And in sports news, England clinches Women's Six Nations Grand Slam at Twickenham. Those were the headlines, and now let's move on to the details of the local news. Minister of Labour and Foreign Employment Manusha Nanayakara said that foreign workers will be given an additional duty concession up to $4,800 when they return to Sri Lanka, in addition to the current duty concessions. The duty concessions given as a special migrant labour package will be effective from tomorrow, the 1st of May, and Sri Lankans abroad who send back remittances of $2,400 or more within a year will be entitled to it. All migrant workers who have sent money to Sri Lanka through legitimate channels from May 2022 will also be entitled to it. This is the biggest concession granted to Sri Lankan workers abroad and will come under 5 categories, that is Silver, Silver Plus, Gold, Gold Plus and Platinum. Workers who have sent remittances between $2,400 and $4,799 in a year or less will become under the silver category, and they will be entitled to $600 in addition to the current duty concessions. Workers who have sent between $4,800 to $7,199 during the stipulated period will come under the Silver Plus category and be entitled to an additional concession of $960. Workers sending between $7,200 and $11,999 per year will be classified as gold and receive an additional duty concession of $1,440. Workers who send remittances between $12,000 and $23,999 will come under the Gold Plus category and get a concession of $2,400. Workers who remit $24,000 or more per year will be classified as Platinum and can receive an additional $4,800 duty concession. The National Building Research Organisation today issued landslide early warnings for several areas in Badulla, Kandy and Kagala districts. Accordingly, a level 1 yellow warning has been issued for the Gangavatta Korala Divisional Secretariat Division and its 7 surrounding areas. And in Badulla district, Haldamulla Divisional Secretariat Division, Kandy district, Udapalata Divisional Secretariat Division, and in Kagala district, Kagala Divisional Secretariat Division. Since the rainfall within the past 24 hours has exceeded 75 millimeters, people living in the aforementioned area have been urged to be on alert about the possibilities of landslides, slope failures, rock falls, cutting failures, and ground subsidence. President's Senior Advisor on National Security and Chief of Presidential Staff Sagala Ratnayaka said that in line with the program to strengthen the country's economy, the government has paid special attention to uplifting the low-income groups. Participating in the inauguration of the second phase of the free rice distribution to low-income families at the Velane Divisional Secretariat Auditorium in Jaffna recently, Mr. Ratnayaka emphasized the government's commitment to uplift the low-income population as a part of his program to strengthen the country's economy, which also includes the implementation of a social security program. The program, which falls and focuses on the Tellipalai and Velane areas in Jaffna, was implemented in conjunction with the government's paddy procurement and disposal program for the year 2022-23 Maha-season, with Sri Lanka Army making a significant contribution. This is the news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
Sri Lanka Insurance, like a father, like a mother.
And we continue with more local news. During a discussion on the 178th anniversary of the Royal Asiatic Society of Sri Lanka at the Mahawali Centre on Thursday, President Ranil Wickremesinghe shared his intentions to establish an Institute of History with the aim of bringing together the museum, archives, archaeology, cultural triangle and universities with the RASSL as a focal point. The President emphasized that this institute should not be in competition with the RASSL or any other institute. Rather, it should work collaboratively with three institutions to enrich the process. Once the final draft of the Institute of History is ready, it will be discussed with the relevant parties such as the universities, archaeology unit and the RASSL. Additionally, President Wickremesinghe stressed the importance of protecting libraries and the need to collect various important collections from museums, archives and the universities, including unpublished theses. He also highlighted the importance of funding these projects and urged the officials to prioritize them. The National Dengue Eradication Unit says that 15 persons have died due to dengue so far this year. The reported dengue cases have exceeded 29,000. Most dengue cases were reported from the Western Province. It is an increase of 49%. 55 health medical officers divisions of the 15 districts have been named as high-risk zone. The National Dengue Eradication Unit said that Colombo, Gampaha, Kalutara, Kandy, Mathale, Hambantota, Gaul, Mathara, Jaffna, Batikalo, Trinkabali, Puttalam, Kurunagala, Kagala and the Ratnapura districts have been named as high-risk zones. The Special Dengue Eradication Program, which was commenced on the 26th of last month, will continue until the 2nd of May. And to conclude the local news, the headlines once again. Biggest duty concessions for Sri Lankan workers abroad. MBRO issues alerts for landslides in 3 districts. The government's commitment to uplift the low-income population emphasized. The President reveals plans to establish a history institute. The National Dengue Eradication Unit says that 15 persons have died due to dengue so far this year. And that was the local news.
Virtual Claim Assistance. Sri Lanka Insurance Motor Plus launched its newest value-added service, Virtual Claim Assistance, which allows customers to have their vehicle inspected and assessed remotely by a qualified inspector after an incident. This service eliminates the need for customers to attend physical inspection and assures that their work is properly assessed, giving customers peace of mind. Sri Lanka Insurance Motor Plus, the best from Sri Lanka Insurance.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The main news story for this morning, the second of the tourism promotion program series based in 3 main cities in India, namely Chennai, Cochin and Bengaluru, was held with a grand successful event at La Meridian Hotel in Cochin last Wednesday. The tourism promotion program, spanning for 5 days, is being held with the participation of Minister of Tourism and Lands Harin Fernando. Nearly 40 institutes from Sri Lanka and people connected to the tourism sector participated in this program, together with what they have held a number of successful discussions on how to rebuild Sri Lanka's tourism sector and development of the industry. Bringing more Indian tourists to Sri Lanka in the next 8 months, providing appropriate facilities for them, addressing security concerns and promoting destinations were topics that were mainly focused on. And that was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
And I watched this morning, another 14 Sri Lankans who were stranded in Sudan due to the ongoing conflict have been evacuated to Saudi Arabia. The embassy of Sri Lanka in Saudi Arabia said the second batch of Sri Lankans who were evacuated from Sudan arrived at the Jeddah King Faisal Naval Base in Saudi Arabia. Accordingly, the group of 14 Sri Lankan nationals were received by Sri Lanka's acting consul general in Jeddah. That was in Watchlight, and now let's move on to the headlines of the world news. Former Prime Minister Hamdok says Sudan crisis risks becoming a nightmare for the world. Turkey's President Erdogan back on campaign trail after illness. Public asked to swear allegiance to King Charles. Those are the headlines, and now let's move on to the details of the world news. The former Prime Minister of Sudan has warned that the conflict in his country could become worse than those in Syria and Libya. Abdullah Hamdok said the fighting will be a nightmare for the world if it continues. The Sudanese army is saying It is attacking the capital Khartoum from all directions using heavy artillery. Almost 2 weeks of fighting has left hundreds dead, while tens of thousands of people are fleeing the country. Thursday's night extension of an uneasy ceasefire between the rival factions followed intensive diplomatic efforts by the neighboring countries as well as the US, UK and the UN. But the 72-hour extension has not been held. Air, tank and artillery strikes are reported to be continuing in the parts of Khartoum. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan reappeared on the campaign trail in western Turkey on Saturday in the flesh and a thundering form. He arrived in the port city of Izmir to a sea of flags and large crowd that had been waiting hours under the hot sun. It was a strong turnout in the opposition stronghold. There was no sign of illness which caused him to drop out of the key events for 3 days this week, just a fortnight ahead of the critical elections. The polls for the presidency and the parliament will be his toughest challenge yet after 20 years in power. The president spoke for almost 40 minutes in strong voice and mocking the opposition, raising the spectre of terrorism and saying he only could deliver growth for Turkey. It was a combative performance which will have reassured his supporters and may have worried his detractors. People watching the coronation will be invited to join a chorus of millions to say allegiance to King and his heirs, the organizers say. The public pledge is one of the several striking changes to the ancient ceremony revealed on Saturday. In coronation, a full first female clergy will play a prominent role and the king himself will pray out loud. The Christian service will also see religious leaders from other faiths have an active part for the first time. The coronation on Saturday will be the first to incorporate other languages spoken in Britain, with a hymn set to be sung in Welsh, Scottish and Irish. Despite of changes designed to reflect other faiths, the 3 oaths of the king will take and form the heart of the service remain unchanged, including the promise to maintain the Protestant Reformed religion. And that was the world news.
Development news.
And in development news, the President's Media Division says that several years of hiatus, the Galle Literary Festival is set to make a grand return under the directive from President Ranil Wickremesinghe. With a focus on promoting the tourism industry, a series of programs featuring various art forms will be held in areas of Galle, Matara, Ahangama and Hikkaduwa in January 2024. A preliminary was held in this regard on Friday at the Presidential Secretariat under the patronage of President Ranil Wickremesinghe. The President emphasized the importance of organizing the activities in a way that highlights the Sri Lankan identity and pride to the world. That was the news, and now it's going to be sports news. And in sports news, it's cricket. England sealed a Six Nations Grand Slam in front of a record women's crowd of 58,498 at Twickenham, holding on the victory against France on the landmark day for the sport. After a nervy start, Helena Rowland broke the field in midfield and Abidou tore down the right wing to score further fuel the already festival-like atmosphere in London's sun. With the hosts seemingly settled, 4 more tries followed, 33-0 half-time leading in England's women's win in the first standalone test on the ground. That was the sports news. Business news coming up.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු හීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Amazon's core e-commerce business may be struggling, but the profit-making parts of the business are delivering. Online sales are flat in the first 3 months of the year compared with the same period in the year 2022, the company said on Thursday. But it offset that will be better than expected sales in its cloud services and advertising units. Profits also jumped in the sign of the firm's cost-cutting drive may be starting to pay off. That was the business news. Economic news follows.
Business News, Sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go එකක් තියන youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු හින හැබැයි කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru Mithru account. NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Economic news, courtesy of... For the 5th consecutive year, LOLC is awarded People's Financial Services Brand of the Year at the 2022 Slim Kantar People's Awards. As the People's Financial Services Brand of the Year, LOLC continues to place the customer first. And this has won the hearts, minds and trust of Sri Lankans, with yet another prestigious award as proof of this lasting commitment. LOLC. Imagine the possibilities.
In economic news, Meta, Facebook and Instagram's parent company has reported a profit of $5.7 billion for the first quarter this year, surpassing expectations for a period in which many jobs were cut. It said artificial intelligence was driving good results across its business. Total revenue was $28.6 billion, while the number of people on Facebook every month rose just under 3 billion. Our community continues to grow, said Chief Executive Mark Zuckerberg. That is economic news and the weather report to conclude.
LOLC Finance is taking the power of innovation to the next level, winning 5 golds at the Technovation Awards 2022, leading the digital revolution with cutting-edge interbanking digital payments. LOLC Finance claims the overall gold award, whilst also claiming an extraordinary victory in digital banking.
Weather report.
Finally, the weather report. Atmospheric conditions are favorable for development of evening thunder showers in most parts of the island during the next few days. Showers or thunder showers will occur at several places elsewhere over most parts of the island after 2 p.m. Heavy showers above 100 millimeters are likely at some places in the western, Sabaragamuwa, central, northwestern and southern provinces. Showers or thunder showers may occur in the eastern province and in the Mullaitivu and Hambantota districts during the morning hours too. And before we conclude this bulletin, let's get back to the headlines once again. The biggest duty concessions for Sri Lankan workers abroad announced. MBRO issues alert for landslides in 3 districts. The government's commitment to uplift the low-income population emphasized. The President reveals plans to establish a History Institute. The National Dengue Eradication Unit says that 15 persons have died due to dengue so far this year. In news overseas, former Sudanese Prime Minister Hamdok says Sudan crisis risks becoming a nightmare for the world. And in sports news, England clinched Women's Six Nations Grand Slam at Twickenham. And with that, we conclude this bulletin of news. And now it's back to our regular Sunday morning host, my good friend Chantima, on the other side of the glass panel to brighten up your day.